this has all come about from an investigation by Manhattan prosecutors into a payout to Stormy Daniels. But how did this all unfold? Because this goes deeper than a stripper being paid hush money. Tell me about this Manhattan DA and his obsession with Trump.
Well, it's not just him. His name is Alvin Bragg. He's the Manhattan District Attorney, super progressive, who has announced when he came into office that he wouldn't prosecute a whole range of serious crimes that any normal person would want prosecuted, because prosecuting them would go against equity or whatever. So you have a New York City that in some ways, where I live, it's spiraling out of control in terms of law and order, but you have a district attorney whose focus is on prosecuting the former president over this issue of the hush money, which has been known for years and years. So, I mean, to me, it's just one more. I mean, he's just one more element of a kind of U.S. establishment that hasn't made its peace with the events of 2016, namely the election of Donald Trump. Instead of saying, well, why did we lose then? By the way, voters turned against him, and 4 years later, what have you. Instead of doing that, Trump has to be turned into a law enforcement problem. It's not political decision by the American people to elect a populist in 2016. It was a crime that he got into office, and therefore it has to be unraveled using the methods of criminal justice, and including by prosecutors in cities that otherwise are riven by chaos and crime, the kinds of crime that ordinary people care about. So that's what this is.
Well, yeah, they spent, 4 years with the Russian collusion hoax. So now they've got to find something else to pursue him. But what would be the unintended consequences if they go ahead with this and do a humiliating perp walk, fingerprint him, all that kind of stuff? Is that going to see him as a martyr in the eyes of his supporters? And is he going to actually boost his support like we saw after the Mar-a-Lago raid?
Well, more than 100 million Americans voted for former President Donald Trump for president in 2020. So although, his popularity has taken some dings over the past few months, he still remains overwhelmingly popular among a large subset of Americans, a huge chunk of the country. And so no matter what they say, this will be read by them as a political witch hunt. And I'd have trouble disagreeing with them, I'll be honest. Because right now, this week, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq by President George W. Bush's administration. And that invasion, look, I supported it at various points over the past few years, but now but by all but the most diehard neoconservatives, is considered to be a disaster. It cost 500,000 Iraqi lives, thousands of American U.S. service members. You had the destruction of the indigenous Christianity in Iraq, the chaos, the rise of Islamic State, the migrant crisis, all that's led to. That was a world historical crime, but it's a kind of legal crime that the establishment tolerates and even supports. But you have here this one president who happened to buck the establishment on issues like free trade, on these foreign interventions, and they come down on him on a ton of bricks. So to a lot of Americans who supported him precisely because he bucked the establishment on issues like the Iraq War, it'll just look like a political witch hunt, a political payback because he was kind of an unusual populist.